Like if I were going to suggest a feature for Google Plus, it would be the ability to engage a larger audience and bring them in here and take them out. Welcome to Hacking Business Technology, the podcast where the hosts continually show up 3 to 4 minutes late for your viewing pleasure. Actually, most people don't watch this live. Most people watch it online after the fact. How do you watch it, Mark?
Why do I watch the podcast? That's a good question.
Not why. How? How do you consume it physically?
Well, I mean, I think some people. I like watching the YouTube videos the best.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's all in one place. And, you know, I find myself watching tons of YouTube content recently. Do you find yourself using it as like a media source?
Yeah, more than ever. And it's interesting, you know, I'm always talking about my kids, but they're very much YouTube kids. I mean, it's interesting to think of a generation raised on YouTube, but, I mean, they have their people that they follow, you know, your YouTube sensations and all that. And apparently everyone knows who these people are if you're under 18, and if you're over 18, you don't know who any of them are, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, subscription. Subscribe now, subscribe now. I mean, that really, like, they've sort of cornered the market on non-politically, financially influenced media.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for once, people's actual interests are what drives content creation. You know, it's just like if I see 16,000 views on a video about dog treats.
Mm-hmm.
Good boy.
Aww.
Then I'm inclined to create more content like that. And so, what do you subscribe to on YouTube? Do you subscribe to anything on YouTube?
I mean, there's a few people doing things similar to what we do, but on other topic areas.
Professional development.
Yeah. I think I like watching training videos for, you know, right now I'm getting back into some music stuff, and, you know, Logic Pro is a big program on Macs for music, and there's
and on PC.
Yeah, so there's a whole series of videos, obviously, you know, that people have done on how to use different features and those kinds of things. It's easy. It's free training. It's out there, you know. But I noticed my daughter's really into videos of people sharing their style interests and, you know, film interests and that sort of a thing. People her age. That's what's really interesting. I mean, there's a whole community of people who are 16, 17 doing this and becoming really well known, and she can even interact with them, you know, to see someone that gets 200,000 hits a week, you know, wishing her a happy birthday or something is pretty exciting for her. So, you know.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a really cool story. It's sort of like, you know, why wait with a career? Just get started now. And, you know,
absolutely.
There's inspirational speakers have been saying this for years. Zay Frank, actually, if you listen to the annals of ITSM Weekly, the podcast, I think we actually brought up this video where he calls out people and just says, you know, get started. If you are interested in graphic design, you better have a portfolio, because nothing is stopping you. Just go to the Apple Store, and you can start building your portfolio.
Yeah. Or write a blog or do a podcast. I mean, they say, I forget who said it. Maybe it was Seth Godin or somebody. But if you write 6 articles about a topic, you are an expert, whether you really are or not. I mean, that's the thing. If you have 6 articles out there about something, people will consider you an expert.
Yeah.
And so just talk. Just get out there.
I mean, and look at this. I mean, that is kind of the point of the podcast, right? It's not. We get very little credibility, cred score. We get no financial compensation, negative even in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it grows me. I get professional development on this better than anyone else. It's really interesting to go back and listen to yourself talk about things. And, you know, I've got a lot of ideas on the podcast that I say really quickly, and then I go back and I watch the podcast, and then I'll tweet it. I don't have the attention span to actually tweet or write at the same time, so I apparently just have to record myself and then catch it later. Okay, so we have to get into news, because the news is sick this week. It is
news. Bring it on.
There's a great article on Ars Technica. I put it in the show notes below, or It's in the event links. I'm getting smart about this stuff. Why not post the links before we get started? Anyway, the Yahoos, the Yahoos. Funny name for a company. But their chief information security officer basically went toe-to-toe with the director of the NSA about crypto backdoors live at a conference about security in California. And so people, of course, live tweeted it and shared it, and it's really interesting. He basically says, okay, and I'll summarize, we're a global company. And if you say that to us, we're going to say yes to China and Russia and Japan and Australia when they want us to build encryption backdoors in as well. Like the only way to, it's either yes or no. Either everyone sees everything or no one sees anything. And I think that so what's your take on cryptography and securing information, Mark Kawasaki?
Well, I'm kind of reeling from what you just said. So that's interesting. So a company can it?
Right? They have offices in all of these countries globally, and really it's information. So geography shouldn't really actually mean anything. We could say that there's a tax benefit, or the U.S. government says that we're based here, so we have to pay taxes here. But really, Brazil doesn't look at Yahoo as an American company. They don't really care.
Wow. Do you think they took it as far as to say we are not an American company? We are a global company?
No, they didn't go that far. And he's a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. I don't think that he would be stupid enough to make claims like that.
It's heading in that direction, though, right?
But
do you really need to have nationalistic allegiances as a company when you're working for the dollar, not for a particular nation? That's really interesting.
I'm very opinionated, and I love reading stuff about cryptography. If you read Washington Post, there's just so many good people in the Jacob Applebaum, absolutely fantastic on Twitter, at XOR on Twitter. Even things like Tor, just watching Tor, ACLU or EFF or any of these foundations that are set up to protect. They have really very, very smart people. They have an incredible legal budget somehow.
Yeah, that is interesting, huh? Yeah, I follow the EFF, and it's important. It's super important.
So Mr. Hooper is joining us from the DMV. Welcome, Matt.
Well, thank you very much. The DMV, which always reminds us just how awesome service management is, and how great queues are. Queues, tickets, prioritization. It just makes you feel so warm and fuzzy.
It does make you feel warm and fuzzy when people get it right, but it's so rare. Okay, so on to the next news article, Fitbit data. Okay, so I kind of glossed over your opinion of crypto. My assumption, Matt Hooper and Mark Kawasaki, is that you are in favor of true encryption. Point-to-point encryption, no one should see it in between. The NSA doesn't need backdoors into encryption because it will harm security forever.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Do you disagree with me, Mr. Hooper? You're very wise. I love getting your opinion. What do you think?
It's a two-edged sword, right? When we are unable to hear conversations, we're unable to filter and search conversations that should not be occurring, right? At the same time, when we're able to hear conversations, we're just making people use other methods for communicating. And we're blocking all the people who want to have communications that they could be having to enhance information sharing or prosper the economy or find new cures for diseases to be stifled, right? So it's tough. It's a challenging situation. I would vote on the air of caution and say best to encrypt it and let the conversation happen and let things prosper and let people have their privacy. Yeah. And if they are bad people, find other ways to find out that they're bad people and stop them.
To me, it's a matter of targeted versus blanket. I mean, there's no. To me, it's unconstitutional. I mean, it's obvious. Reasonable search and seizure, right? That counts for data as well. If there's not a good reason for them to be searching and storing my data, then they shouldn't be.
Oh, that's a cool. I like that perspective. That's pretty good. I like both your perspectives, actually.
I think Marx is a little crazy. I don't think you can talk politics and bring the law into it. I just think that's
nice.
That's just going way out onto an edge for me.
So for now, if you want to be secure, so I like what you said, Hooper. It labels encryption as a tool that enables people to prosper, which I think is really good, because that is clearly what we're trying to do. If I'm transferring medical patient data for cancer research, let's protect that data and make it actually protected.
Yeah.
And if you are doing something like that right now, apparently you should be just saying to yourself, well, we need to build our own encryption because we can't trust anyone else's anymore. So the reason that this came up is because the chief information security officer of Yahoo went head-to-head with the director of the NSA and basically said, if we provide a backdoor to America, the American government, we will do the same for all of the governments in which we operate. Which is really interesting. I think it's beautiful.
When you're a global company, right? And so I don't know if you guys have had experience with this, but it was interesting. I had my run-ins with the law in IT back in 2000 with the Japanese government. At the time, the 3Com came out with this device called an NBX voice over IP system. And I wanted to stop paying toll charges for all these, long-distance calls my call centers were making between each other. So I shipped a NBX 3Com device to Tokyo. I shipped one to Europe. I shipped one to Australia, and I shipped one to Utah, where our call center was. And I started doing voice over IP. And then I got a little letter in the mail from the Japanese government saying, our federal communications laws do not allow this particular device, as we are not able to see and hear the information that goes across it. And it was this whole thing, and I actually had to work with the executive at 3Com to get clearance to keep the device there. Because otherwise I was shipping all the stuff back to them, because that was my whole purpose, right? So it's interesting. When you're an international company, you kind of have to play the level field, how do you say it? Level the playing field.
Yep, exactly. Because really, when you talk about encryption, if you put a backdoor in it, it's not encryption. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so then my next news story: Fitbit data was used this week in a court case.
Insurance claim?
Let's see here. No, I think it was. I don't actually know what it was. Because
I've always thought that. I've always said to myself,
Fitbit off my wrist.
I'd want to correlate, if I was an insurance company, I'd want to correlate the purchasing of Fitbits by those who are on unemployment, on disability claims, and then tap into their Fitbit data and just see how much they're running around and traveling around and getting out and about. Because there's all these people who are like, oh, I can't go to work, and then you see them like hopping around town. It's like, okay,
living off the land. It's a personal injury lawsuit.
Yeah, similar, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's data like anything else. If it's subpoenable, I don't know. But
it's data. The thing is, there's so many ways to hack it. You know what I did is I instantly took my Fitbit off and put it on my dog. Look, I'm home. I am home all the time if I give you this Fitbit. If I give you this other Fitbit, I'm always out. I just don't think that it's proof.
Well, when insurance companies start saying, "Hey, send us your Fitbit data, and we'll start giving you premium reductions."
Yeah, that's already happening.
Just think about this conversation.
Yeah, there's.
You're getting premium reductions, and all of a sudden you're filing a disability claim, and then they're tracking you, and you forgot all about the premium discount you were getting, and now you're.
But I mean, it's not a new thing.
Check.
The same thing happens with your grocery store card. Yeah. I mean, they've used that in courts as well. Oh, well, this guy was buying too much alcohol. That's why he slipped when he was in the grocery store. So,
You don't need to bring that up again, Mark. I know I shouldn't drink as much. No, I'm just kidding. Speaking of, if you Google your symptoms when you're feeling ill or whatever, it turns out that there are several companies that are tracking your data. I put a link in the show notes down there. You can actually, they have a map, and it shows you if you searched here and found this result, it got shared with these people. And it ends up, the CDC ends up basically owning everything at the end, which is cool and bad. I think that one point that they make in the article is that if you actually do it on the CDC's website, there's a Facebook and Twitter share function, believe it or not. If you search for herpes, on the CDC website, it can call your Facebook account, and you could share it.
That's really interesting. I've seen more of that lately, share buttons. Like, there's this one where I pay my kid's lunch bill every month, and as soon as I pay it, it literally asks me, do you want to share this? I'm like,
just give us $100 worth of bad pizza.
Very strange.
That's strange. I guess, well, those are the people that I don't follow on Facebook.
I know.
So, obviously another big news, net neutrality was a huge story yesterday. I mean, that's amazing. I think it's wonderful because I hate Comcast so much. So.
Yeah. So what do you understand about it? Because the way that I understand it is that there's like an 80-page doc that is now they're beholden to or something else. I don't exactly understand the whole thing. I know that they voted for net neutrality, which means good things for people that hate Comcast, which is me too. It's a Minnesota company, but I love them and I hate them. I'm getting like 80 megs right now, and I'm paying for 30, but I still just don't like their customer service very well. And I like competitive rates. I want competitive rates.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just important to me because I want to be able to do what I want to do on the internet without people making decisions about how much certain things are important or should cost more or that sort of thing versus other things. It's all traffic, it's all data, it shouldn't matter.
So I wonder if they're explicitly saying that they're not going to monitor stuff, because for the longest time, like if you were a BitTorrenter back in the 90s or the early 2000s, they would just throttle your traffic based on BitTorrent traffic, right? They just can see that it's different, and then they would throttle your pipeline so that you couldn't share tons of data. I wonder if there's specific... I think I want to read through all the content, is what I'm saying. I think I want to read through, no matter how many pages of BS and bureaucracy it is, I think I still need to just understand the entire thing.
Well, it's not so much for individual users, I think, as it is, the arrangements they have with Netflix and other companies. I mean, it would have inevitably led to increase in costs in those because they have to pay to get their data out to the customers. I mean, Netflix is, some crazy 75 or 80% of all internet traffic, so if you want to use it, it's it's got to be unregulated or regulated.
Yeah, that is a ton of something.
And what's the agenda, though, Mark? I mean, why would people would not want net neutrality?
Well, the only people who don't want net neutrality are these companies or conservatives who are interested in not regulating business of any kind. So those are the two interests there. Oh, we lost Matt. Oh, there's Matt.
Yeah, he's bouncing in and out. It's because the hotspot in his beamer is up and out.
So the main thing that they did was the FCC labeled internet as a utility, so then it can be regulated as a utility. So that's the huge crux there.
Yeah. Okay. So that kind of makes sense because there's already community-based utilities, right? Someone can go and they can compete with the local utility, and then it also gives people the ability to let's see here, do they keep prices down using that? I think that's one of the effects anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, you wouldn't be charged more for power based on what you're doing with that power, right? So same thing with internet.
That's interesting because, you know, now what you see, if we look at the power industry, because I think the power industry is really actually quite fascinating, which sounds really boring when I say it like that. But one of the things that they're doing right now is they're introducing smart grids and the ability to turn off specific services based on load, right? So you can turn off you can opt in for a discount. You get this little device that turns off your air conditioning for 4 days or whatever. It'll be interesting to see if that happens in the ISP space, right? Like, oh, the Super Bowl's on today, so you 400,000 people, you don't get to watch it because your meters are off today. Because is that what's going to happen, or is it because it's not a limited resource, we'll never have that?
Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, where does free markets come into it, right? One of the problems with power grids is that they are permanent fixtures that are highly dangerous and explosive. So, you know, shipping high power lines and transformers is a risk, whereas running fiber down the street, not so much. I would think, right?
Yeah, it seems more risk averse. I don't know.
Yeah.
It'll be fascinating to see how it comes out. The people in my neighborhood have always talked about forming a community fiber project because we just want fiber.
Mm-hmm. Can you do that? Is that something that can be done?
In the state of Minnesota, I believe so. And actually, there are these services that are kind of springing up for people to just do that. They'll come and they'll do the backhaul and make sure they'll pay for the infrastructure install or whatever, with the assumption that they're going to provide you service for X number of years.
Yeah. Google Fiber's coming to Atlanta next year, so that's kind of exciting.
Ooh. Man, you don't want to be an early adopter of Google Fiber. You know they've got some wrinkles ironed out.
Yeah. Gigabit internet to the house.
Oh, you thought they were just wanting to spy on your Gmail account. No, they want to see everything. Everything. So if you are getting this and you're in Atlanta, like our friend Mr. Mark Kawasaki, you want to maybe invest in a VPN service. If you're looking for a VPN service, I strongly recommend TorGuard. Absolutely fantastic. Yesterday, I think I ran 6 gigs through them. No drops, no nothing. I've had a connection open for up to 6 days with them. Absolutely fantastic.
Nice.
In other news, yes, there's more of that. Someone shared a CSV directory of everyone's first and last names on Facebook. It's 8 gigs. Pretty easy to use that sort of thing, and then do some password runs against it. So it's really interesting. I shared the link not because I think that this information is good and needs to be spread. I think it's an awareness thing about privacy that people need to understand, because you actually can turn off this setting on Facebook to not have your name exported by pirates. But it's really interesting to look at the thread and see where the conversation goes for the people that actually consume this data. So I linked to the actual thread where it's posted, because I want you to see the conversation. I want you to read through it. If you're interested about what happens to data when it gets leaked, is people start to quickly share their assumptions of that foundation data and how they can manipulate it or make money. And they do this on forums pretty openly, so if you want to experience or understand how people are picking that apart, be my guest. And then I have one other news story.
But they have other data besides the first and last name, right?
Oh yeah.
Someone had a multiple column spreadsheet here before they just sent off the first and last name.
Mm-hmm. And you can do basic correlation, right? Like, I mean, even if you just Google some of the more unique names, you quickly find out who they are. This is a topic that's growing. I posted it on Facebook the other day. I don't know if either of you saw it, but I have a lot of parents that are coming to me and asking me questions like this. How do I just make sure that my kids aren't being stupid? How do I make sure that their privacy settings are set? And I think there's a lot of good information out there. There's a lot of good blogs, and most of them, the really good ones, are talking about building trust and good relationships with your kids and just having your kids understand how to behave and good parenting practices. But then beyond that, they kind of skirt around a lot of the technology issues. It's not very instructional. It's not what I would call a computer-based training guide for privacy in America, or the privacy in the digital age.
Well, isn't that because it would have to be updated every month?
It'd have to be updated often, and I think it needs to be instructional to the point where you're saying, step 1, sign up for an Instagram account. Step 2, post something to it. Step 3, and have varying levels of not only technical capabilities of parents, whether they're competent or incompetent, but then also age discretion, right? Even when Lucy was born, I had to quickly consider how I felt about data tagging on the internet with pictures.
Yeah.
It's a question that that all parents have, at least nowadays. It's a question that all the parents these days are always asking themselves. But it becomes, I think, more important as your kids get older to be able to stay ahead of the game, because it's just a big. So what I'm doing is I'm starting a project where we're going to create instructional content around that and give parents the tools that they need to see that their kids are safe.
That's really interesting, though. I mean, you're kind of implying there that a kid could reach 10, 12 and realize that they have a huge public profile on the internet without even their consent or doing. I mean, it's just totally done by their parents, right?
Let me give you a use case here. I'll give you a use case example. I do a blanket search on Twitter via if this then that on geolocation for my wife's place of business, my place of business, because I want to see what people are saying there, because that's contextually important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that I see high schoolers posting on Twitter should not be posted there in any way, shape, or form ever. And I try to engage them, which is strange in and of itself. But I'll start anonymous accounts or whatever and say hey, you're sharing your location, or your Twitter account is protected, but because you're sharing your location, I can see everything. Or I found that your first and last name is this. You're working at Walmart. You shared this picture. You could be arrested. Stuff like that. I want them to understand that their actions have a consequence, and I'm not sure that either the kids know what they're doing or that their parents know what they're doing, but I want people to, if they have the initiative to actually care and want to care, I want to be able to point them to a resource that I can trust about how to behave, or rear digital netizens. What do you think? What are your ideas? Is this a terrible idea? Am I just more noise?
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea. However, you're going to run into philosophical questions. I mean, again, some people do not, especially these kids themselves, do not consider it a privacy violation to have their location shared. Period.
No, I agree. Yes, I'll quickly get into values discussions, right?
Yeah.
I'm very liberal when it comes to sexuality and political ideals, but I'm very conservative when it comes to the safety of human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I just I want, even if it is a spectrum, right? Let's say nudity, for example. Kid gets raised by nudists, so they think that nakedness is okay, for example. This is pretty left field. I still think that those parents would be concerned if their kid was posting about guns, or maybe they'd be concerned about their kid having a second Instagram account that they didn't know about. And it's those kind of gotchas that I want people to think about. Quite famously, that is the old advice of yesteryear. Your kids can have Facebook, just make sure that they friend you so that you can watch what's going on. The kid's got 12 Facebook accounts. 11 that you don't know about,
and multiple layers of sharing, so you're being excluded from all the good juicy stuff anyways.
Exactly. And so I think even if it doesn't gain traction, even if people don't actually use it as a great resource, even if it doesn't make first click link bait on Google searches and SEO wise, I just need it to be able to say to these 12 parents that are asking me questions, this is where you can go.
I think it's even more simple than that too. I mean, remember, what was this topic like 10 years ago? It was how do I track my child's usage on their computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even that old-time topic is still a hot one today.
It's still relevant.
How do I track my kids' internet usage on their phone? That's a whole different thing. I don't even know if that's easy. I mean, I'm getting into that myself, and the only way I know how to do it right now is to have my son's Google password and make sure he doesn't delete his history and check it on Chrome, you know?
All right, Papa Hooper, give it to us. What you say, man? Oh, he's got a delay. That was a great introduction. But seriously, Hooper, you've got kids. You've got to be opinionated about this. He doesn't. I don't think he can even hear us. No, he's just there to be pretty.
I know. Your face looks great, Matt.
But so, and in any case, if you think it's a great idea and you'd like to contribute, by all means, reach out. A couple nerds already did reach out and say, I'd love to get involved. I think there are probably other people looking for the same resource. A quick search online, quickly identifies that there's tons of blog posts about it, tons and tons. Like Ars Technica has blog posts about it, Gizmodo has posts about it. But it's really just media content, and it's quickly out of date, and it's not instructional. It's not geared towards consumption. It's geared towards media.
Yeah. That's right. It's talking about the topic without actually doing it.
It's talking around the topic, which you never do when you are hacking business technology. Thank you for joining us this week. Hooper's just signing in to sign off. Hooper, did you want to say something about did you hear my pitch about online? Oh, he's not there. Dang it, that was such a good exit line. Hooper, you're messing up my jam, man. You're messing
Sorry, brother.
All right.
I'm here.
Oh, we got you on audio now. So what do you think? What do you think of the idea?
So what you guys were talking about.
Creating a site so that people can...
Kids would go there.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a challenge, right? At the end of the day, you have to build open and honest conversations with your children and trust them. Because you're never going to be able to protect them from everything. So that's where you start from.
Yeah.
And then from there, you find opportunities to teach them lessons. Like I sniff my network. I watch every address that every device at my house goes to, whether it's Netflix or some other site that's inappropriate. I'm watching it and I can see if my friends, kids' friends come over and go someplace or whatever. I know whose device it is. I can see them getting on the network. And every so often I just breeze through it to look at it. Now, I don't consider that spying on my children. I just consider it called checking up, right? It's just like they did in the 60s when your child went to a friend's house.
You said,
I'm going over Johnny. Yeah, I'm going over Johnny's house. Okay, great. If anything bad happens there, call me. Let me know. And then, an hour later, you're calling Johnny's mom and saying, "Hey, was there a party at your house and you there?"
Well,
right?
That's the thing, though. I mean, when we have to trust our kids in those situations, there's not an orgy going on in the other room, right?
Right.
But there is on the internet every day, all day long, everywhere. I just don't know if trust is enough. Can any child be trusted?
Well, sure. You have to teach them about orgies.
You have to. That's exactly right. You have to teach them what is good and what is wrong. You have to spend time with them and showing them when this happens or if this pops up, don't click this. Do this instead. Force quit. Control-Alt-Delete Task Manager, force quit. You have to teach them those things.
Yeah, right? It is important. I read an article this week about hip-hop. What do I do when my kids come home singing those lyrics that I don't actually, I do not espouse misogyny in any way, shape, or form. I try not to anyway. But I like some hip-hop. And so when it happens, I need to be able to address it, and I need to be able to have a conversation with my kids say, now this is what that means. Like, spell it out. Go to rapgenius.com. Absolutely fantastic analysis of rap lyrics. And talk it out with them and say, this is what this means. What do you think about that? And, put the decision on them. Oh, it's really fun, actually. I mean, it really ends up being very fun.
Yeah, it's at a certain age, it's always going to be age appropriate, but you start to have your adult conversations with your children, and it gets to a certain point you can have that adult conversation with your children. I mean, it's funny because I'm at the point now where I can have a more adult conversation with my children than I can with my wife. She still calls it the private. Who with my daughter who's a nurse. I've got no problem saying penis. It's just, it's funny, but you have to have those conversations.
The times they are a changing. I'm gonna have to bleep out penis if we're gonna not be an explicit podcast.
That is an appropriate word.
It is appropriate, but it actually does fall into the guidelines of what you can and cannot talk about on iTunes. Believe it or not.
That makes no sense.
It really doesn't, but if you've got political ideals, a company's values are oftentimes aligned to the owners and or the politics in that region. I don't know.
Because the reality is nothing dirty ever uses that word, right? There's no sex. Well, I'm assuming there's no sex videos or all those things that are using that word, right?
We can assume. We'll assume. Actually, we're going to take your advice today, Papa Hooper. We'll take your word for it. And that's hacking business technology.
Please, children listening, please don't Google that word.
It's spelled P-double-E-double-N-double-I-double-S-double-T-double-E. All right. Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.